The MidStates Corridor project continues rolling along. More on that. Plus, the Jasper Power Plant's future is still taking shape, and Rob Berry is our guest this evening on Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. We begin tonight with a death investigation in Daviess County that saw a suspect commit suicide nearly 700 miles away while trying to escape. Daviess County Sheriff's deputies say a man shot himself just outside of the southwestern Alabama town of Daphne after Baldwin County, Alabama authorities stopped him along Interstate 10 yesterday afternoon around 1 o'clock. Now, investigators are still working to confirm the dead man's identity, but they believe he was 40-year-old Jeffrey Dyer of Odin, based in part on the pickup truck that he was driving. The victim in the death investigation was identified as 33-year-old Travis Woodruff, also of Odin. The slaying occurred at around 9 o'clock Tuesday night. Daviess County Sheriff Jerry Harpstreet says no cause of death has been determined. The Odin Town Marshal's Office, Indiana State Police, and the Greene, Knox, Warwick, and Sullivan County Sheriff's Departments all are taking part in this case. The push to build a new interstate-grade highway connecting DuBois County with Interstate 69 rolls on. Last night, MidStates Corridor project leader Hank Menke gave an update on the project to the Jasper City Council. Menke asked the council to kick in some money to help keep things moving with the MidStates Corridor group. Menke says the money will go towards having pre-engineering work and a P3 study done in order to assess the costs of the project. He says the work will be done with the help of other groups in Florida and Texas. Menke says that public money can only help the efforts.
I think from what we're getting from the private sector is going to be that we'll have enough in the funds to carry us for the next 2 or 3 years. So what I'm saying to any public money that's brought forward, we're hitting, like I say, I'm asking you, I'm going to Huntingburg, I'm going to the county commissioners here next week, I'm going to be with them, that the private sector is going to match and then some any money that's raised on the public side.
Now, Menke also credited the work of new District 63 State Representative Mike Braun in keeping things moving. Menke says Braun has had regular discussions about the MidStates Corridor with Indiana Department of Transportation Commissioner Carl Browning. Now, on the private side, German American Bancorp CEO Mark Schrader says the highway is needed to keep companies such as GAB viable.
From an economic development perspective, really what we're doing here is trying to get back what I think all of us thought was in the plan with the bypass. And because at German American, we've been very supportive of I69. It's a great thing for southwestern Indiana. It's a great thing for the rest of our footprint. But ironically, without us having better access here in DuBois County, over time, the economic development will go in a different direction.
The council will be using edit funds that have been specifically designated for the MidStates Corridor. Menke says the private support will help to keep things going over the next 2 to 3 years. No money for the project has been allocated by INDOT to this point. Menke says the MidStates Corridor Group is still closely monitoring the construction of Interstate 69. He remains confident that stretch of highway will get finished. Menke also says communities such as Washington are already reaping the benefits of having an interstate, with new warehouses and other businesses already locating near the highway. Menke says a final route and specific locations for the MidStates Corridor in southwestern Indiana are still being sorted out. Jasper City officials continue working to resolve the future of the city's former power plant. Tuesday night, Utilities General Manager Bud Hauersperger told the Jasper Utility Service Board that the second phase of the environmental assessment on the plant building and property will soon get underway. The first phase of that study was completed last month. Now, the city had put out requests for expressions of interest on the plant late last year. More than 20 were sent out, but only a few were returned by that December 1st deadline. Hauersperger says most of the power firms that did return them stipulated that the city would have to buy power from them, which cannot be done since the city has a contract for that through the Indiana Municipal Power Agency. The most viable option for the plant came from salvage companies, and the Utility Service Board approved sending out bid packets to those companies during last month's regular meeting. Hauersperger says nobody else has expressed interest in using the building as a power plant at this point. Thus, he says, not much has changed in terms of the options.
I'm not making the final decision, but likely we will look at proposals, a request for proposals to both completely salvage everything and demolish it down to grade, or have an option to just basically take the guts out, take all the power plant components away and leave the building with a shell, and then see if there's interest in the repurposing of the building itself.
Hauersperger also says efforts to revitalize the power plant were a good idea, they just didn't work out.
At the time, it was a good project. It had a lot of potential, and a lot of it depended on electric rates climbing, you know, with all the other coal plants shutting down. But now with natural gas and fracking coming in, it's kept the price of electricity down, and this seems to be the forecast say it's going to stay down. So I'm still kind of wishing we had that opportunity, because I do think it would have been a good project for the area, and it'd been nice to try to reuse the plant as a power plant.
A full report on the environmental study is expected at a later date. District 48 State Senator Mark Messmer says a bill aimed at a new kind of economic development has taken another step towards becoming reality. Senate Bill 359, which is aimed at implementing a sales tax exemption for data warehouse equipment, passed out of the Senate's Committee on Tax and Fiscal Policy earlier in the week. The bill specifically targets investments of $100 million or more in equipment and investments in high-technology district areas of cities or counties. The goal is to entice larger companies such as Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft to consider putting data warehouses in Indiana. Messmer says these tax exemptions have a track record of success in Colorado, Iowa, and several other states. He says there are several different positives to getting this type of investment to the Hoosier State.
They are a large consumer of power. A typical data warehouse like one of these would use the equivalent of 30 to 40,000 households of power consumption, and with that there's tax generation that goes along with the power consumption. There's employers of six-figure income, technology folks that work in them. So there's a lot of spin-off positives that go along, with the jobs development, the infrastructure that usually gets added to support them, and all those would be added benefits to getting one of these as an anchor.
All exemption applications would have to be reviewed by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. This bill is now in the full Senate, awaiting a vote. And finally tonight, Indiana legislators have advanced a bill that would lift a state law restricting the route for the final leg of the Interstate 69 extension near Indianapolis. The House Transportation Committee voted 8-1 yesterday to repeal a 2004 law that prohibits the highway from passing through southern Marion County's Perry Township. Bill sponsor Representative John Price of Greenwood says he wants state highway officials to have the option of using the Indiana 37 corridor for the I69 stretch between Martinsville and the I-465 loop that goes around Indianapolis. Committee Chairman Ed Soliday of Valparaiso says he believes the current law violates a state constitution prohibition on the legislature deciding highway routes. Now, even if the bill clears the House, senators who represent the township oppose the highway following Indiana 37. I-69 construction continues on Section 4 between Crane and Bloomington. That stretch of the highway is set to open later this year. All right, coming up after the break, your local forecast, sports with Kurt Gooksell, and Inform with Rob Barry. That's all up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.